Hi, my name is Jay Erdahl. I'm a doctoral candidate in cybersecurity. Thank you very much for listening to me today. It'll be kind of interactive, so I hope we can chat together. I'm not in the right mode now. Let me see if I can get in the right mode. There we go. Excellent. Great. So here's today's course that we're going to follow. The first is we're going to talk about 3 different questions. So I'm going to answer 3 different questions. The first one is going to be who I am, credibility, why you should listen to me. The second thing will be why you should want to pay attention to research. I had to. I'm getting my doctorate. They require me to do it. But why should you pay attention to research? And then lastly, why is team resilience important? Then we'll move on to a couple different things that we can do for different solutions. I won't make you read my entire 60-page literature review on everything that's out there. I'll just give you the 4 best items, and then we'll give you some key takeaways. Great. Excellent. All right. So, and then we'll answer some questions. Who am I? First and foremost, is there any doctors in the house? Anyone else get their doctorate? Oh, yes, there we go. We got one. Okay, great. So here's what they required you to do. It's not actually that difficult to get, well, actually it's really incredibly difficult. So it's a lot like getting any other degree, except you have to do things at doctoral level, whatever that means. And then you get this 5 months where you get to do your own research with your own cohort. And then you find the one itty-bitty thing that no one has done research on. And then you spend the next 1 to 10 years of your life doing that research. You publish, and then you're a doctor. I'm at that point where I've yet to spend that 1 to 10 year of my life. I've got all of this research. And I really want to share it. So I've also been lucky enough to run a lot of conferences. Anyone been to the Minnesota Developers Conference? I know, yeah, there's a few of you out there. Yeah, it's a pleasure to organize that for 9 years. The Norwegian Developers Conference. Any Norwegian Developers Conference, folks? Okay, great, excellent. One of the toughest parts is finding a speaker. So in making sure the speaker has credibility, that they can talk the walk. So I'm going to talk a bit about myself. First and foremost, I am both a runner, hi Rose, and a professional. So who am I? I have been lucky enough to lead technical teams for over 25 years. And I've been running seriously for about 13. I've led teams in companies that have gone public and those that have gone bankrupt. Any Star Tribune folks out there? Yeah. Yeah, all right, yeah. Got to be in there during that bankruptcy. That was a hoot. In startups to 125-year-old institutions. So I've competed in running. Okay, runners out there, Rose, raise your hand. Runners. Okay, swimmers. Okay, cyclists. Okay, how about triathletes? Anyone out there? You raise both hands if you're a triathlete. All right, great. So I've got a chance to do those anywhere from 1 mile to 24 hours in length. So including consulting, I've got to work with over 40 fabulous technical teams. And directly managed 9. And I've run 63 marathons or longer. And about 3 years ago, I sat down with my wife and I said, let's really take this serious. This isn't serious enough. So I went back to go get my doctorate and do a bunch of research. And I also took on running a bunch of marathons. So I've run 44 marathons or longer in the last 3 years. So, and I will say the two work really well together. You're running a lot, but then you're over here and you're sitting on your butt a lot, reading a lot of research. These things go together very, very nicely. So I've been lucky enough to do those. So why should you pay attention to research? I'm going to give you the TLDR. So if you have to get up or you're just tired of hearing from me, you can have these to take away. So provided you are healthy enough and you're not injured, big provisos. The difference between someone who wants to run a marathon and someone who has finished a marathon is resilience. It's your ability to encounter something really awful, get up, brush yourself off, go out and continue doing it. So developing running resilience is not It's not totally about fluffy things like visualization and mindfulness, though those are important too. What it's truly about is figuring out where you're weak and figuring out how to get strong by training. So, and honestly, it's the same thing with your team. So your team, the difference between a team that is resilient and that is which is not, is their ability to look at themselves and figure out how to become more resilient. You need to train for what can go wrong and what's going to work great. Who remembers Michael Phelps? Champion, a swimmer, great. Love Michael Phelps. Great story about Michael Phelps. His coach kept saying, visualize success. Visualize you succeeding. Guess what happened? 200-meter butterfly, his goggles filled up with water. Thankfully, what he had done is what a lot of us do, was he had dwelled on what could go wrong. So he knew how many strokes it would take after he did the turn to get to the wall. He had done that. He had practiced failing, just like we all do. He had learned what to do when that failure happens, and he was able to succeed. So, real quick about this, I have to list my sources, because that's what we do. But the images are all from Nano Banana via Adobe Firefly. I am not an animator. What's great about AI is I'm really good at describing to someone what I want. Again, been in leadership for 25 plus years, so this is something we know how to do. I was able to describe what I wanted from here. So, why pay attention to research? There are 5 classical types of persuasion, because ultimately you want to pay attention to research because you need to persuade someone, yourself, your team, or your organization on why you should do it. There are 5 types. One is timing and urgency. The second is mission. Third is credibility, which I've used. Fourth is emotional. It's about the children. And the fifth, of course, is my favorite, data-driven. And data-driven, think of it less as data-driven and data-enhanced. All of these argument styles are great. And by the way, I will send out this presentation at the end. And I have 3 pages of sources at the end, too. So anytime you can source Aristotle and Isocrates, you're always in good shape. So data-enhanced arguments are better than any of these on their own. Why? Great question. Number 1, you are not as special as you think you are. I'm sorry, you're a special flower, and I get it, and your organization's very, very different. But here's the thing about flowers. They all kind of have some similar characteristics. They fall in families and phylums. They all tend to absorb carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. So you are not as special as you think you are, and you can learn from what other people do. The second is you lack experience. So how many people out here have worked for 3 different companies? Okay, keep your hand up. 5 different companies. 10. 20. All right, so I lost you. Oh, we're still on 20. 30. All right, there we go. A standard research study does at least 50 to 100 different companies. And there are metadata that looks at hundreds of studies and pulls all that data together into one study. So the studies have looked at far more things than you are able to do in your vast experience. The third is you can be better with data. Think of a data-enhanced argument is better than when, any argument, credibility, emotion, urgency, or mission is stronger with data at your back. And here's the reason. You might be wrong. Boy, I've been so convinced so many times that I was right, and I went to the research to confirm my priors, and I was wrong. So before I stuck my neck out and got it chopped off, I made sure that I was correct. So why should we research team resilience? Great question. Let's start with running, or any athletics. A resilient body can do more. You have to go to the doctor and the physical therapist less often, and you're more likely to keep going. This is good. Same thing with resilient teams. The studies have shown resilient teams, they're more productive, they require less managerial intervention, yay, and have lower turnover. When you're injured, you change your stride, sometimes poorly, and this can cause some long-term issues. Likewise, employees under high stress often adopt maladaptive coping behaviors, short-term strategies that hurt resilience over the long term. Any bullies in the room? You don't have to raise your hand. You know who you are, and your team talked to me before this talk, and they said, stop it. It worked once, and it was really cool when it worked once. Now it's really pulling down the team. So that type of maladaptive behavior, when I hear about a bully in an organization, I'm like, you know, that worked for that person once. Now they need to be taken aside and said, this is not helpful. But there are a variety of different coping behaviors that are bad if you're under high stress. So you train for that. So what isn't resilience? Because there's a lot of confusion here. First of all, it's not strength. Strength is doing what you got to do under pressure. Strong wolf, right? What is experience? It's when you've seen it before. And you know not to panic. Skill is knowing how to do the right thing. And grit, well, it's knowing the right thing takes a lot of work, doing it anyway. So what is resilience? Resilience is what ties all of these other four things together. So it's when shit happens and you keep going anyway. It's how you recover. It's how you adapt to unique situations. If you have strength without resilience, you're like a boxer with a glass jaw. One hit and down you go. It's not great. So if you have experience without resilience, well, you become a cynic. I've been there. If you have skill without resilience, you're perpetually frustrated because things are not going the way they're supposed to. So, and if you have grit without resilience, well, you burn out. Or worse yet, you become a martyr. You rage quit and you become a cautionary tale to the team of that guy who did all that stuff and then he flamed out. Don't do that. Resilience is the key. So, what leads to the lack of resilience? That poor wolf. I've been there. Two things. So individual and team. And these are the top four. There are dozens of things that lead to a lack of resilience, but these are the big ones. Perfectionism, poor time management, poor work-life balance, and emotional exhaustion. For your team, it's high workload, inadequate recognition. We've all been there. Unhealthy workplace conflict. Some conflict is good. And then lastly, insufficient resources. Lots of sources on this one. Team resilience solutions. I've got 4 for you, and we're going to put it in running terminology. Number 1, buy the right shoes. Listen to your body. Train for your race. And take time for recovery. So let's start with buying the right shoes. I will share this slide deck in the future. What I will not share is the name of my shoe fitter because it takes about a month or more to get in to see the woman we call the shoe whisperer. And why is she so great? Here's what she does. She watches my stride and she sees how I do. So she sees that. And then she looks at the bottom of my shoes and she goes, okay, this will really tell me what you've done. Right? So you look at where the person is now and what they've done. And you also ask them about what they're about to do. These shoes are great for marathons, 100-milers. These are great. I'm training for a 314-mile race across Tennessee in July. And these shoes will melt. They will die. So my shoe fitter will help me find a shoe that works with my body. Stop it, laughing, Rose. You're going to do it with me. This is a John Taylor race. You could do this one. It's something you have to train for where you're going to be. So in team terms, what is this? You pick the tools and the techniques that work with your team. The best tools out there that you've heard about, the best Nike Vaporflies, they don't work if they don't fit your body. Likewise, you got to pick the things that work with your team. You can leverage the apps and tools that are out there to monitor stress and wellness. You can meet the team where they're at by simplifying your processes to align with what you guys are strong at, and then pick human-centered systems to enhance engagement. And then lastly, pick the tools and processes for your current and your future need. What's your 314-mile race that you've got to run that you've never done before? So what do you have to gear up to get? Second is make strategic policy and systemic changes. Knowing that not all stress is bad, some's very good, unless it injures you. Stress is good in short bursts. But if you have some weak team performance that you can tie in your risk register or something else to a stressor, that's bad. And you differentiate between one-time and systemic stress, and then you develop policies that address those systemic stressors. These are things like excessive workloads that you can probably find. That's a gimme. Role ambiguity is another classic one that will wreck any team. Lastly, you embed that prevention in organizational processes. And we're going to talk about training here pretty quick. All right, great. Number 2, listen to your body. First item in there is workload management. You can create some flexible prioritization methods. When my coach tells me I got to run 20 miles at this pace and I've got a cold, I got to give something up. Likewise, if you guys are under stress and you recognize that and can be flexible with what things are the most important, that will make you more resilient. You can be proactive in workload assessment. I've gotten a lot of unexpected events over the years that happen on a recurring basis. And what's an unexpected event that happens on a recurring basis? Expected event. You can plan for that. You can be proactive in your workload assessment. You can promote effective project management practices. Any PMs or Scrum Masters in the room? Oh, God bless you. You're doing the Lord's work. God bless you. Here's the thing. Balancing tasks are important, but keep in mind cumulative stress. So there's a little monitor on my watch that gives me a monitor of cumulative stress. If you got the developer that is your clutch person on project after project after project, it is cumulative stress. That person's going to burn out. Balance their tasks to minimize stress. And mitigate increased workload through benefits. When you do a 24-hour race, you don't get pizza until hour 9. That's just when you get pizza. You get enhanced benefits. Likewise, if you're working elections at a newspaper and you got to work overnight, great. And you get more pizza. And it's not always extra stuff. Like during 9/11, none of the designers or developers were allowed to release anything because it was freaking 9/11. And we weren't making any changes. We were just having trouble keeping the website up. So what did we do? Well, we sold an afternoon edition of the newspaper. And we had them go out in the street and go, extra, extra, read all about it. And that was so much fun. That was a huge benefit. They had that increased workload that they were looking forward to, but we mitigated it through some benefits. Cognitive load. You can reduce cognitive demands by aligning complex tasks with low stress periods. So that's why we put really complicated but awesome talks right away in the beginning. See, I'm looking at him, he's not even looking. Really complicated, stressful talks you put in the beginning, and then you put fun talks like me later. So you align it with low stress periods. So I gotta tell you, very rarely can it wait till tomorrow morning. The number of times someone contacts me at like 5 p.m. and says, I need an answer. I'm like, no, you don't. You need an answer tomorrow morning. Call me tomorrow morning. You're fine. You're fine. Take a pill. Look at your SOPs. Look at your workflows. Add some that there's some ambiguity. That causes stress. Simplify them. Throw out the exceptions in a different document. Truly easy. So this is your happy path. If something goes wrong, go to the complicated document. Happy path happens most of the time, ostensibly. And then you can delete things that are from things that will rarely, if ever, happen anymore. You can address that decision fatigue through intuitive design and optimized processes. And just really look at the workflow. Look at your tool. Look at how people are working. Standard UX design stuff. Lastly, have a collaborative, supportive culture. through mentorship and team building activities, and some of the resilience training that I'm going to talk about later does double as team building, and then promote open communication to address emotional exhaustion and build mutual support among employees at the right time in the right environment. It's not a good time to be working on the car when you're driving down the road and you're trying to cross the finish line. So you need to address those at the right time. It's not usually time to say, hey, should you take some time off? I think you're a little stressed out. No, we actually need you here to work. So, number 3, train for your race. Think about where you're weak in your team and train on those items. You prepare through process and you simulate situations like Michael Phelps did. So we'll talk about some of those later, but the key is to implement tailored training programs for your team. The other thing you can do is you can hire for resilience. There's a couple things that are clearly aligned with humans that are more resilient. They are cognitive flexibility, the ability to think in different ways, comfort with ambiguity, willingness to ask for help, and learning orientation. One of my favorite tasks in interviewing employees is asking them how they solve a problem, and then continue going back to them and go, what happens when that doesn't work? What happens when that doesn't work? And if they never ask for help, sorry, not really a resilient person. You gotta ask for help eventually. But if they ask for help too soon, that's a problem too. Anyway, you can onboard this resilience training. You can create resilience training during your onboarding process. So those same stress coping strategies and resilience training, that can be a part of onboard training so employees can hit the ground running. You can enact job-specific interventions to help build skills and prepare employees for psychological demands. And some of these are kind of fun. We'll get to those. But I will say some of these you guys have probably done. So tabletop exercises, chaos engineering. So these are things that we've all done to some extent. Last one, choose the time to recover from injuries. And it's very, does anyone have an Oura ring? Something that monitors, okay, great. Thank you. Yes, of course you do. So Oura rings are great for sleep. I have a whole set of information on sleep, which we won't get to today. It's great for sleep. It's complete rubbish when it gives me my goal for workout for the day. And here's why. When I'm on a rest period, it tries to give me more work. And they're like, dude, you're doing great. Let's go out and run a marathon. No, this is I'm trying to recover from an injury, and I get frustrated. Likewise, when I'm in the heat of training, they're like, dude, I don't know what's going on with you. I think you got the flu or something. So let's not work out today. And my coach is like, no, you still have a 15-mile run to do today. So the key there is when you're in the thick of things and you're in the soup, it's not the time to think about recovering from injury. But you have to address all issues when the time is right. You provide access to counseling. You do not ask Becky during the meeting whether she's seen a counselor lately. That is not okay. I can tell you HR would not sign off on that. You promote mindfulness programs and wellness technologies. So you hold resilience training to address that stress and promote well-being. Like we talked about, chaos engineering and micro-recovery training, which we won't have time to get to here, but please email me about. This is one of the most fascinating areas, is micro-recovery. So a couple key takeaways for you. Number 1, there's hope. I know you can change. I have worked with too many teams and seen too many teams that were able to change. People do it all the time. Do a gap analysis. Find out where you can improve. Where are you work? And use this slide and all the sources that I'm about to show you to help. Look into tools and processes grounded from research that can help make your team better. Prioritize based on ROI. Remember to tie the R to things your organization cares about. And then go out there and make your case. Use one of the classical styles, but make sure to use data. Cool. And lastly, I can help. I've taken this career gap time so I can do all this research. I've got hundreds of studies. Please email me Ask me about specifics of what your team is going through. I would love to help. Now, let me roll credits, roll credits, roll credits. A lot of people went into the making of these. Any questions? All right.
This might be kind of in your differentiation between grit and resilience, but how do you know if like you're pursuing the wrong path? And maybe that's just separate and comes into the conversation about like make sure you're pursuing the right goals to begin with. But in software, often we're like headed in a singular direction, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's a bad choice. But we continue, and when I say we, I mean I myself have personally continued on projects for much longer than I should have killed them. And well, how do you define the difference between like good resilience and bad resilience, or is it the great resilience?
Oh, no, it's great. It's all about the feedback loop. So when I start a new training regime, I see if I'm more injured and if I'm becoming faster or slower. So truly, as long as you build the metrics and the monitors into your system, you can identify whether this is working. And of course, there's a learning curve. But at some point, you have to look at that learning curve and go, nope, this just doesn't fit what we're doing. Also, walk with the wise and you will grow wise. Look at other organizations like you in the research and see what worked for them. I mean, I gotta say, people are not as special as they think they are. I'm sorry. It's the wrong time in the holidays to say that, but you're not a special flower. I'm sorry. There are a bunch of flowers just like you. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. Good question. Good question. It's gonna be tough to follow. Yes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So I had a team, I'm no longer at that job, but when you showed the slide of like all the problems you could have, like we had all four of those problems. Like, we had people being awful to each other, we had horrible timelines, we had crazy requirements coming in from 500 different places. How do you kind of know where to start when it's like actually just a disaster?
Oh my gosh.
Because I mean, I kind of did the best I could in the situation, but there's only so much you can do, you know?
Oh, no, I get you completely. When I was trying to train for ultramarathons, I tried hill training. And I tried all the different techniques of trying to get up that hill. And I just learned that I'm going to get injured a lot if I try to do those really hilly ultramarathons. So I would say if you're in an organization and you try to make a change and it doesn't work, okay, that could just be random. And you try to make another change and it doesn't work, well, that could just be random. But if you keep trying and you keep failing, the team is DOA. Get out of there. By God. And it sounds like you did. Applaud you for doing that. The other thing to remember is it's hard to lead from the bottom. It really is. Sometimes there are just some things that are never going to get resolved. And it's going to suck. And I'm sorry. I really am. I can't make the weather warmer outside. When it's 0 degrees, it's really going to suck when you're running. So there are just some things that you're never going to be able to change. You just have to decide for yourself, is that okay? Is this the type of team dynamic that I can live with? If not, get out quick. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Network. We're about to go in a networking event. Even if you think you do not want to leave, now is the time to network. Dig your well before you're thirsty. So network now. Just in case that thing that's painful, but you can kind of deal with, becomes so much worse. So, yes?
Some technical leaders, they don't want to change. How would you get the leaders who want to accept the change or want to accept it?
I'll give you the official reason, then I'll give you the reason the thing that works in 25 years. Number one, you tie it to ROI. You tie it to something they care about. But here's the real thing. What they really care about is looking good. So the R that they care about is looking good. So it's their idea. You can get an amazing amount of work done as long as you're willing to let somebody else take the credit. And that's awful and it's wrong. And I'm sorry, and it's true. So people care about themselves, particularly leaders. They probably got there. There's a little ego involved. So help them make it their idea. And then you've got a champion already at a level above you or 2 level. Or heck, I do this with caution, but go to your boss's boss. So be cautioned. That's dangerous ground to tread, but I've been quite successful doing that. So get it so that your boss hears from their boss. That's something they're supposed to do. And then you know what you say? You say when your boss comes back to you with your own idea, you say, "Good idea, boss." You don't say that your boss came up with that idea. You just say it's a good idea. You know it's your idea. So nice job. Yes.
Do you have a favorite system that you would recommend?
Oh,
People that are struggling with managing stress.
absolutely not. I do not. I really don't. So the rules are you never talk to people about religions, politics, or nutrition. And I would say systems fall close behind. So, and the reason is it really depends on what works for you. I wouldn't recommend a style of shoe for you as a runner. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm not the shoe whisperer. I can't do that. Likewise, I wouldn't say a very specific system, but please email me your problems. I am happy to give you some ideas of things to look out for. So, and probably give you some examples and some sources of people who have tried that and did it work. So, cool? Yes?
So my question is, when you're done training, like when do you know that you have to take a rest?
When do I know that I have to take a rest? Well, first and foremost, injuries. So just like when you're doing teamwork, if you're failing more frequently, if you're having more people show signs of burnout, this is a time when you need to take a rest. So as a team, you need to take a break. Likewise, when you're training, it's all about, am I getting injured more often? Am I hitting my goals that I'm supposed to hit? If not, it's great. But I will say the modern tools will also help you with this question. So the modern workload management tools will say this person is under stress. You should give them a break. My watch tells me and helps me out for that as well. So, and also people around you will say, wow, you've been kind of annoying lately. So, maybe you should stop. So, cool. Yes.
Don't worry, I'm loud. I don't think the button's working. But you kind of mentioned, well, I guess I'm first going to say my boss is wonderful. I'm very, very lucky, so this does not apply to me.
Yay.
Sorry, that's obnoxious.
That's all right. That's all right.
But I don't want to insult my boss with this.
It's fair.
I have been in situations where this has applied to me, 100%. And you said mindfulness is not helpful.
No, it is helpful. It's incredibly helpful. No, I'm sorry.
That's the only thing that saved me.
Oh my God, mindfulness, and by the way, a lot of micro-recovery, because we aren't going to be able to get to it today, is all about mindfulness. It's all about taking a second and thinking about anything. I happen to think a good stretch and really focusing deep on that stretch is a great micro-recovery strategy, because all you're thinking about is your left hamstring, and you're really focusing on that. But of course, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. To a runner, a great stretch solves just about anything. But I will say mindfulness is incredibly important. The problem is when people think resilience is only about not training. Training is the key. Actually doing the work, figuring out what you need to train in, and then doing the training is important.
Yeah, mindfulness isn't going to solve a bad team dynamic.
No, it's not. Typically not.
It's a Band-Aid. I'd rather have a Band-Aid than a bleeding.
You can count to 12, but they're still going to be there when you're done. Your team's still going to be the same. So you might deal with them a little bit better, or you might know to rage quit, one or the other. So you might know to leave. But yeah, cool. I think our time is up. So thank you guys, appreciate you. So thank you.